Good morning and welcome to today's episode of Random Guy number 6. Today we are going to be painting a house. Now we got a lot of prep work to do and I will let you see the house here. So this big unit here needs to be removed from the house. The whole house needs to get washed. There are shutters that need to come off. Basically a whole ton of stuff that needs to get moved. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started removing these shutters, getting everything kind of pushed out of the way, clean up the whole area, and we're gonna turn this house from an ugly turd into a pretty princess. I've got all the shutters off and everything is pretty much out of the way now. So the next step is going to be to pressure wash the house. Now, my pressure washer has these nice little containers at the bottom, and all I need to do is take some house cleaning concentrate, pour them in here, take this little tube, jam it down in there, and give the house a rinse, and then switch to a high pressure nozzle and clean it all off. And this house will be all spickety span. Now, an important note before we start pressure washing: if you have any plants or stuff like that that are going to be right in the area where you're going to be using this chemical cleaner, you're going to want to rinse these all down first, get them all wet. Once we're done with the putting the concentrate on and rinsing it off, you're going to want to re-rinse all this stuff. So just to make sure that it doesn't damage your plants. So the house is all pressure washed. Now I'm going to take you around and show you some of the issues that we're going to need to tackle basically before I can actually start painting. And there's quite a few, so this might take a little bit. First things first, we got peeling paint in various places. And in addition to that, we've got some cracks in the brick. Stuff that looks like it's already caulked once. I've got some actual concrete patching caulk. So you can see stuff like that. Now on this side of the house, there are 2 satellite dishes that are not in use and a ton of wires that are not in use. So we're gonna have to go through, we're gonna remove all the stuff on the side of the building that does not need to be here anymore, that is just dead and in the way. You can see here, there was an addition on the house, and for some reason, that's how they decided to finish it. So we're gonna have to dig out this gap here, kind of smooth that out, and I'll put some more of that concrete caulk in there. Now this thing, there was a big heater here, which you can see right there, and that's how they, yeah. So I'm gonna need to remove this. I'm gonna need to take this entire panel off, and I'm going to attempt to put brick in there. Now, I've never done brick. Never ever in my life have I done brick and mortar. So I told them I'll give it a shot. So if I don't look like a professional when I do it, or it doesn't turn out perfect, you know why. But it doesn't look super difficult, so I'm gonna give it a shot. Plus it's getting paint anyways, so as long as I can make it look fairly good, and where we can paint over it, I think we'll be fine. Now, I'm not really gonna do anything on this side of the house right now because it's gonna be like 100 degrees today, and this entire side of the house is going to be hotter than devil's butthole. So we're not gonna be over here. I'm gonna work under the front, and I'm probably even gonna wait on the back until it cools off a little bit, or towards the afternoon when the sun is on the other side of the house. Now on the back side of the house, we've got more cracks. This one's a pretty good size one, kind of up there. And you can see it was already filled once. So we're just gonna fill it again. That's really all I can do. So kind of little stuff kind of all over. We got areas where that was decided to be done for some reason. So we're gonna fix that. We got some more peeling paint. So I'm gonna go ahead and get set up and get starting to paint on the front. And hopefully by the afternoon, this side will be warm enough, or I should say, this side should be cool enough where I can actually start messing around with that brick and getting all these satellite dishes and stuff down. And so let's get to it. So I've got all the loose paint knocked off and exposed a bunch of raw wood everywhere. So all of those areas are going to need to get sanded, which we are going to be doing next. Now, in addition to that, you're going to see these areas where it kind of looks stained. Let me look for kind of a bad spot here. So like something like that. So those stained areas, and what that is there's tannin in the wood is bleeding through the paint. So basically that means that whoever did this originally probably didn't prime it. So anywhere there's wood and we're putting a light color, we're gonna have to prime it. Now these beams I'm gonna be doing in a different darker color, so I don't necessarily need to prime those because the tannin's not gonna bleed through the pigment in the paint. But the wall and these big flat areas, it's all going to be lighter. So I need to get a primer on there so we don't get that bleed through and it's like this really nasty stained look. So I'm going to break out some primer and we're gonna make all this nastiness go away. The last thing I need to do before everything is ready for paint is to caulk all of the holes and the imperfections. You can see holes like this. I'll try and put a little bit in these gaps, you know, fix whatever just doesn't look good. And as soon as I got all that done, we're gonna start painting this thing today. Well, we're finally ready to do some painting, so I'm going to take you through the steps, show you how to set everything up, and I'll show you how to paint. So first thing you're going to want to do is mix up your paint. Now, normally if you get it right from the store, they're going to shake it up for you, but even if it sits for a day or two, there's a chance that it can become separated. So I would always mix it. I have a little mixer here. Now, sometimes you can have chunks and stuff in here. If you do run across chunks, just make sure you strain your paint. Even with new paint, you can run across that. So next step is going to be to shake this off. There we go. And rollers, this is an old roller, one that I've been using for a little while, but you still want to run it with the tape, or run the tape across it, I should say, so you can get, if there's any little dirt specks or just any kind of foreign material in your roller, you don't want that getting in the paint. This is really, really important even on new rollers, because you can, you need to get the fibers, like there's little hairs and stuff in here that will come off as you're painting, and you don't want that stuck to your walls or interior, exterior house. And I mean, you can see, let me see if it'll actually even show you the stuff that was in the roller, you know, and that would have ended up in the paint and it would have just looked like poop. So now that we got that, got my handy dandy little bucket, I just have a random big thick brush because I'm not going to be doing anything crazy, just cutting in the edges and rolling it out. So I don't need anything angled or super expensive either. I'm just going to beat the crap out of this brush basically. Now I'm working outside, so I'm not going to put a ton of paint in this bucket because it is going to be 106 degrees today, so I need to be able to go through this paint before it starts setting up in the bucket. I don't know whatever your temperatures are wherever you're at, but just pay attention to that and don't paint in the sun. So if the sun is on that side of the house, paint this side of the house, and when it's shaded over there, go paint that. Do not paint in direct sunlight. Your paint will instantly skin over, and more than likely your paint might not stick to the wall, or you're just going to run into issues that you don't want to have to deal with. So I'm going to get this hooked onto the ladder and I'll show you how to paint. All right, once you're all set up, basically it's super simple. You just want to paint the outside edges and then roll the center. But make sure that you get into these grooves really well. If you get some on the other parts that you don't want painted that color, just kind of smooth it out so you don't have like hard edges. So he has went with a nice little baby blue color, which looks nice and it'll turn out really pretty, I think. The trim is going to be a darker blue color, but you'll see that later. Now that my edges are all coated, I'm just going to roll it out. Roll the middle and it should be all good. Get as close to the edge as you can. If you grind it on the edge, if you know you're painting this a different color, it doesn't really matter. Some people are going to say go with the grain, go against the grain. Personal preference. If you roll it out, it doesn't really matter which way you go, because you're not going to see the marks for how you're rolling it anyway. So whichever way you're more comfortable and whichever way is more convenient, paint that way. That's how I would do. So I'm going to paint the rest of this and probably do it one, maybe two more times. Probably two. So you can see now that we have all of our center paint all done. This is the same baby blue that is actually going to be going on the house, but today what we're going to do is the accent color. So basically I need to work from the top down so that I don't end up like, if I would have painted this whole wall baby blue and I would have done this, I would have sprayed the dark blue on the wall, and it would have just been more trouble than what it's worth. So today we're going to do the accent color on all the beams, but the first thing I need to do, of course, is to fix all the imperfections. So I'm going to go around and take some caulk, fill all the holes, fill all the gaps, kind of show you. So we got gaps like that, gaps like that. Let's see what else we got. Little holes in the wood like that. Just stuff that it's gonna make it smooth out a little bit. We got big gaps kind of on the outside here. We're gonna fix all that. This way when we put the coat of paint on, it'll look more like a natural, real, not old and weathered wood. So I'm gonna get to it. So in this stage of it, you are going to need a little bit of skill. So basically what we're going to do is take this line. Oh, let me see if I can actually point to it the right way. This line here, and we're going to cut that line freehand and then roll the rest of the beam to make it all match. So take your time, do it slow, let the brush do the work, and I'll show you how to do that. Well, I got my handy dandy bucket here again, and I did not put a lot of paint in my bucket because this is going to take a little bit longer, so you don't want that paint drying out, especially since, again, it's going to be, I think, only 104 here today. So in order to cut this now, if you use the tip of your brush, you can go all the way in the corner, lay it on the side, and then just kind of work it down. You want to get it as perfect as you can on the first coat, but if you're a little bit off, you miss a little bit, you know, you can get it on the second coat. Or if you flop onto the blue where you don't want to paint, not a huge deal. You can touch it up with the light blue paint or whatever your paint colors are, and you know, don't freak out. It's not like it's a huge deal. Just a little more extra work, but everything will be fine. And there we go. It's not a perfect line, but it's pretty close. So I just take our roller here and just roll out the bulk of it. Now the reason I don't want to brush it all is because if you brush it all, it's going to put it on super thin. And we're trying to do thick coats because it's exterior paint. So using a roller is just going to give you a thicker coat. So be careful, obviously, try not to hit the stuff you've already painted, but if you do, again, I can fix it. So it's not a huge deal. And that's pretty much how you do it. So I'm gonna paint the rest of this. Hope you enjoy. This side of the house is now all prepped and ready for primer. There was a ton of caulking, a ton of prep work, ton of sanding, but it's finally all done. I'm not going to take you through all the little details of it. You'll see it here in the quick speed up. This side of the house is all done and ready for primer. Now, I'm sure you saw all of the work that needed to be done. It was a ton. I even had to reinstall some light boxes and an electrical box and some of the conduit. I'm gonna go ahead and slap some primer on here and get this side of the house painted. have enough shade on the back side of this house to actually be able to work on this wall area. So, as you can see, this is what I'm going to try to remove. And I'm going to attempt to fill those 2 squares in with bricks. And hopefully I do okay. So the first thing I need to do is remove this electrical cord, couple screws there, pull this off, and then I can have access to the wood, rip the wood off the wall, and then hopefully I'll be able to get some bricks. I got some mortar, and hopefully I don't look like a fool doing it, because I am not a mason. But they said give it a shot, so so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm probably not gonna be pretty, but we'll see. You never know. So let's get to it. Well, everything is removed, and it's a much bigger hole than I had anticipated. But if anybody knows who TW is, send him my way. You could have made this just a little bit easier. So I'm gonna go round up some bricks, and yeah, I'm gonna attempt this. Should be fun. So now this is the absolute worst side of the house. It is in the sunshine for the bulk of the day, and there are cracks, gaps, holes, weathered wood, just a ton of things that need to be fixed on it. So I'm gonna take my time. We're gonna plastic the windows, pull down the satellite dishes, and get rid of all the extra cables and wires that are just basically attached that are not in use and that just don't need to be anymore because they need to be here anymore because they're old and unused. So I'm gonna go through, get these satellites ripped off, and start doing some prep work, get some caulking done, and if I see anything crazy, I'll show you a close-up and we'll go through that. Well, everything on this side of the house and the back side of the house is fully prepped. All the windows are masked, everything is sanded that had flaking paint, the caulking is all done. I made this stone or brick hole that was in the wall look as best as I can. So next thing we're gonna do is put some primer on it. As soon as we get the primer on it and everything is dry and ready to go, we're gonna start painting. So I'm gonna do the light blue color and I'm gonna spray that as well as the primer because there's nothing that I have to worry about out here. I don't have to mask, buildings or anything like that. I'm pretty much wide open. Like on the front side and the courtyard side of this house, I ended up just doing everything by hand because it would have been too much of a hassle to try and mask everything. And it gets kind of windy here, so it just made it easier that way. So on this side, I will paint the light blue color, but then the trim color, because I have to cut everything in, make the lines all good and perfect, I will do that all by hand. So I guess let's get started on priming and painting. So now I've got my base coat of paint on everything, on this side and the back side of the house. So my next step is going to be to basically spray all of the edges. So I can just spray all the edges a couple times and roll the center. So I'm gonna roll this out, and the reason for that is there's a lot of pits and gaps and stuff that you just can't really get when you spray it. I'll show you here what I'm talking about. So as you can see here, this is really, really pitted. This is the area that I did the big patch on, but even the area that's not patched, you can see that, it's painted, but the right way to do it is to use a roller. And when you use a roller, it will fill all those holes in. It'll give you a much more clean and professional look, and that's really what we're going for here. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray on my edges, get out my roller attachment, and get this thing rolled out. I have finally completed this house. The paint job on this was grueling. There was so many problems, so many things wrong with it. Holes, cracks, bad wood, kind of everywhere. So I am finally done, and I'm gonna be heading out to another state soon. So I will end the video here with some before and after pictures, and I'll see you soon.